Part two. Uh, Hi, everyone. Hola, Daisy. Hola, Jefas. Today is a really super duper exciting day over here at Suma. Daisy, can you tell us why it's an exciting day today?
It is an exciting day today because we are finally having our graduation, our Jefa graduation with an amazing speaker, a keynote speaker we've invited, especially for all of you. And I'm just excited to recap all of the wonderful memories that we had
Mhm.
throughout our time here.
Yes, exactly. So it is 4:02. We do want to go ahead and give Jefa some people to trickle in. So as we wait, I want to go ahead and ask everyone tuning in a question. So at this point, if you did follow our pacing advice, you should have finished the entire Suma Jefa Business Bootcamp course. And one of our questions for you today is, what has been your favorite part of the bootcamp? So, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, I think those are it, right?
Yeah, we've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Oh, yes, YouTube. I forgot that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead and let us know what has been your favorite part of the boot camp. Daisy, what has been your favorite part of the boot camp?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, my favorite part of the boot camp has been the engagement and the interactions we've had with our wonderful members and just seeing the progression of even me learning the concepts, learning how to apply those concepts,
Mhm.
and opening up my mind to new possibilities. I think for sure this program was built for that and it did exactly what its mission was.
Yeah, I love that. And I was thinking about this question myself too, as I was creating the curriculum for today, and I want to echo that as well. As you all know, right, I am a former maestra, and one of the things that brought me to the classroom in the first place was interacting with people, right? Back then it was teenagers, now it's with our jefas, and I really like that aspect of being a maestra, really getting to learn about students, not just as a teacher student, but also like as humans and individuals. And throughout the course, there were jefas who would email me and tell me about their business stories or even things that were happening in their personal lives, right? Like exciting moves and things like that. So that was my favorite part too, really seeing how our jefas found the program engaging, impactful, and, really ¿cómo es la palabra? I'm blanking out here, but que sí les ayudó, right? I think that's the key here, that they really found it helpful in their journey. So that's been beautiful for me too.
I also will say this. I loved this whole show with you. I felt like this was a co-hosted show, and it really was. And
Yeah.
I made wonderful memories with you. I'm like, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry because I was looking back at recordings, that I'm like, because I have to, make sure that I keep everything on file and clip. And I was looking back at some of the funniest moments, some of the banter we would have while we were on live. Like you would ask a question, I would accidentally answer it wrong or right. We would like just laugh a lot. And that to me was such a good energy, such a good match. And I think that made this show very organic. For all of you who are watching on the lives, I think you could say the same.
I know. No, it has been a beautiful journey. Again, those of you who have been tuning in throughout the entire journey, you know that Daisy is our tech queen. Como cada good maestra, I'm not the best with tech. So Daisy has been here supporting and, yeah, like you said, adding on, right? Like that valuable piece of community, which I think that's what the Suma Jefa Business Bootcamp really is, right? Joining and bringing people, jefas together for that beautiful part of community. And I would always argue, as Latinas, right, that's a core value I think that we carry with us, always helping each other, always growing.
Yeah.
So ditto. I've loved this journey with you, Daisy, and with our jefas too.
And my headphones, they put in the most of the work. As you can see, the Tech Queen's equipment, it gave out on the very last live. Can you believe it? It's almost like it was fate. It happens.
Oh, bueno, pues con eso, we're going to go ahead and continue. Everyone tuning in, we hope that that was enough time for you to trickle in and think about the question. But here we are. This is our final guided English Jefa Power Hour. So, congratulations to all Jefas, class of 2024. This is on today's agenda. Again, a big great welcome to all of you who have completed the entire course. And at this point, I believe you should have received your ASU SUMA certificate. If you haven't, please send either myself or Daisy an email, and we will make sure to get back to you with that. But yeah, for today's graduation, we do have a very special, super duper cool jefa that we're super excited to engage in a plática with. Her name is Sandra Velasquez, and she is the founder of Nopalera. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to say is, per usual, we want to give a huge shout out to Ashley Kay. She is the author of Jefa in Training. Of course, without Ashley, this entire course would not have been possible. So shout out to Ashley. Thank you so much. And here we go. So yeah. Again, congratulations, Jefas. You did it. As your Suma Maestra, super duper proud. It has been a beautiful journey. I would say there's been learning on both ends, right? Just as much as you all have learned, I have learned, Daisy has learned. Oh, there we go. We have graduation music. Making it cute. I know. But with that, let's keep the music going because we do want to highlight two of our Jefa grads. First,
valedictorian.
our valedictorians, Jessica Ruiz. Shout out to Jessica. She was the first Jefa to officially complete the entire Suma Jefa Business Bootcamp course. So let's go ahead and give her a round of applause.
Hey, Jessica, if you see this in the comments, we appreciate all your engagement. We appreciate you being present and joining us this entire journey until graduation. You did an amazing job, and congratulations.
All right. And then second, but equally important, we have Maria Perez, aka Maruca. Maruca has been with us, definitely always showing engagement, always present, really giving us like that energy, right, Daisy? I would say every time we would ask questions, Maruca was there.
Absolutely. These two women have definitely been in this entire program, giving us so much engagement, so much love. Maruca, my hugs to you. Thank you so much, Jefas. And also check out our page. We have highlighted them and their businesses. So if you want some antojitos, definitely check out Maruca. And if you are looking for a guided, relationship coach, definitely seek out Jessica. She does focus with Latina women. So definitely a great resource in the community. So
Yay! All right. So with that said, we want to go ahead and now welcome our very special Jefa keynote speaker for this graduation, Miss Sandra Velasquez, again, founder of Nopalera. Yay! All right. Hello, Sandra. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for all of our Jefas tuning in today?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. Buenas tardes to everybody, wherever you are listening from. My name is Sandra Velasquez, and I am the founder of Nopalera, and I'm based here in New York City. And so just very excited and so proud of everything that all of you are doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra. Again, here at Team Suma, we love your work. We're so happy that you're here with us. So, Sandra, I believe you have a very special keynote speech that you will be giving to our jefas today.
Yes, if everyone is ready, I am ready to give everyone their flowers.
All right. So let's get into it, jefas. Before we engage in our plática with Sandra, we do want to go ahead and allow Sandra to share some special words with all of you.
Thank you so much, Angelica. So hello, and again, buenas tardes to all of the Suma Jefa class of 2024. I am so honored to be here with you all today, and being a part of Suma's inaugural Jefa Business Bootcamp graduation is a huge accomplishment, and all of you should feel incredibly proud for your commitment to your own evolution. And like true Jefas, you have all persevered throughout the boot camp, and most importantly, you have showed up for yourselves. And I hope that you continue to do this even after this boot camp is over. Being an entrepreneur and a business, Jefa myself, I know that this journey is not always an easy one. And along our way, we may face a lot of obstacles and challenges due to our cultural background, our gender, lack of resources, but we are not alone. And so these types of boot camps and communities that's why it's so important. Community is always going to be where you ground yourself with your community, with yourself. And this is what makes Suma's Jefa Business Bootcamp so special. This bootcamp provides a community for Latinas and Jefas to come together and to learn and grow from one another. And so today I am here with all of you celebrating this very special entrepreneurial learning and growth that you have all embarked on for the last 6 weeks. If I had some flowers right now, I would be throwing them all to you. So just know that I'm throwing my virtual flowers to all of you. As you guys know, the data shows that Latinas' economic power is significant and growing. So for example, the 2023 US Latino GDP report by the LDC found that the collective US Latino economy is valued at 3.2 trillion. That's with a T, trillion, with Latino purchasing power reaching 3.4 trillion. And furthermore, Latinas are the fastest growing entrepreneurial group in the nation, y'all, okay? With so much economic power and opportunity that we have to offer to our nation, to our communities, no one can deny the importance of Latina entrepreneurship. But even though the data is in our favor, there are still obstacles. You know this. I have experienced them. And one of the biggest ones that I've experienced is the lack of funding for Latina-owned businesses. And the reason for this is because there aren't enough Latino, in my opinion, there aren't enough Latino investors yet, right? And so there are not enough of us at the banks, in venture capital, at lending institutions. And this is why I am so bullish on all of you succeeding wildly, because your success is what is going to change the tide. We need to become the investors in the next generation. And I'm sorry to say, but no one is coming to save us. We are all going to succeed, and we are going to move up, and we are going to send the elevator back down to help the next generation. There's other data points, such as Latinas facing higher interest rates. When Latina entrepreneurs do secure loans, they often face higher interest rates than their male counterparts, making it more difficult to manage their debt and grow their businesses. I have experienced this myself. Will you also face stereotypes and discrimination as you build? Yes, I deal with it all the time. I have been asked some ridiculous questions by investors as I have pitched my company. But I want to offer that you look at these situations as opportunities for growth. When someone underestimates you, let it fuel you to want to win even more. Believe me, I have a collection of rejection letters from investors, and I can't wait to one day publish my tell-all book. Well, they will all be in the appendix for people to read so that you understand that you're not alone. And one thing that I really want to make sure you take away from today is this piece of advice. Along your entrepreneurial journey, make sure that you never view your value through the eyes of those who do not have the capacity to see your vision. Do not let anyone tell you who you are. Show them. Some of us are also mothers and caretakers. I myself am a mother. My daughter just turned 17, and it can be challenging to balance it all. And some of you may experience guilt for wanting to focus on your business. But as a mother myself, I also want to offer that your children learn by watching you be you. So live to your full potential so they can too. As Jefas, we must learn to lean into our resilience and grit to stand against all adversity. And for many of us, especially first-gen Latinas, adversity is not new. Therefore, while business obstacles might be new to you in this journey, remember that you already have the tools, the knowledge, and the wisdom to overcome them. Whenever you experience obstacles, remember that you are not alone. You have an entire community behind you that's rooting for you, that's supporting you, that you can come back to. And this is why community here is so special. So all of you joining me today as part of this beautiful community of Jefas that have big business dreams, please do not ever let that go. When times get hard or when you have doubts, remember to come back to Suma's Jefas Business Bootcamp. All of the resources included in this bootcamp, the 12 video lessons, along with the worksheets and quizzes, are essential tools that can help you whenever you feel stuck. And don't be afraid to resort to them as many times as needed. I have notebooks filled with notes of things that I have learned from different groups, accelerators, and bootcamps that I have been a part of. So another thing I would like to offer is to create your success squad that you check in with, whether it's people from this boot camp that you met or other people that you have. I personally have a CEO squad that I meet with virtually every week. We are each other's biggest cheerleaders. When they win, I feel like I am winning too. It is a sacred circle, and I want that for all of you. And honestly, I want all of you help us to grow your businesses, like the business of your dreams. And so, with that, I want to leave you with one final piece of advice. And it is this: I want you to take your ceiling and make it your new floor. So, what does that mean? It means that I want you right now to think about a number. Your business is successful and you are generating revenue with your business. What is that number that you feel like, wow, if we made that much in revenue, in sales, I would be so happy that you would be successful? So now hold that number in your head. What is that number? You don't have to say it out loud. Just hold it in your head, right? And now I want you to double it. And how does that feel in your body? Do you feel scared? Do you feel excited? Does it feel unattainable? I want you to understand that this is why you need to make your ceiling the new floor, because one of the hardest things to conquer as first-gen Latinas or as Latinas is conquering ourselves and our own limiting beliefs. So I want you to get comfortable with this number that's double of what you thought was possible, because honestly, all of you are limitless. So thank you all for being here today, and congrats on all the Jefas graduating class of 2024. We are all so proud of you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. That was so inspirational. Daisy and I were behind the scenes where we're like,
Yes.
yeah.
I actually think the doorbell was such a great addition because that sounds like success is right at the door. I was like, oh my goodness, I love this advice. Thank you so much for the quote about making your ceiling your
Mm,
new floor.
Lord.
Wow.
mhm, mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, but also like pushing our jefas, right? To like, okay, think of a number that we define as like success and like doubling that, right? Again, like we have so much potential and we have to start believing in that ourselves. That is so powerful. Thank you so much, Sandra. We truly, Daisy and I were behind the scenes clapping and smiling. And, also this idea of like throwing our flowers, right? Like, I really want to give everyone here flowers, right? Including Daisy, including you, Sandra, our jefas. It's a really
Look at that.
We have beautiful comments coming in. They're throwing a lot of love. We've got a couple people saying facts. We need to help each other more. What a beautiful speech. Go, Sandra. Somebody quoted you, take your ceiling and make it your new roof. We've got lots and lots and lots of beautiful feedback right now.
Hmm. So, with that said, I think we're ready to go ahead and start engaging in La Plática con Sandra. So this plática, like most of our power hours, we want it to be more of like a relaxed setting, ¿verdad? Daisy and I were going to be asking Sandra questions and engaging in a charla, right? Here we have an ultimate jefa, and it's really cool that we get to learn from Sandra. So here we go. Question number one. I really wanted to start our plática with this idea of standing in your worth. From multiple interviews that I have seen of you, Sandra, as well as you going to Shark Tank and really proving what it means to stand in your worth, my first question for you is this. What does standing in your worth mean to you as a jefa and a thought leader within the Latine and business community as a whole?
Yes. So for anyone that didn't see Shark Tank, just the quick recap is I got two offers and I turned them down because they wanted so much of my company. And what I had offered was nowhere near, was a lot less than what they were asking for. And so one of our core values at Nopalera is to stand in your worth. And what does that mean? It means for me, ultimately, is to be proud of who you are, that you don't you're you know and you just know that. And that's what I want for everyone, is for everyone to be proud of exactly who they are, where they came from, no matter where that is, and that you were worthy the day you were born. This is not something that you have to work for or get validated by others. It's just, it already exists in you. And that also means that sometimes we have to say no because we know that we're worth more. than whatever's being presented to us in that moment. And is it scary to turn down money? Yes. But you have to believe that there is more on the other side, that there's always more. There's so much out there.
Awesome, Sandra. So just to give folks even more context, how much money did you turn down from the Sharks when you were at Shark Tank?
Yes, I turned down $300,000, which is a lot of money. And could I have used the $300,000? Yes. But I knew that so many things happened in that moment. First of all, I think all of us can relate to this reality of how much we have accomplished in one generation from our parents' generation. You know, my father used to pick fruit in Central Valley, California. And my mother came from Mexico when she was an adult to this country, not speaking English. And so for their child, me, to now be standing on an ABC soundstage in front of, millionaires and billionaire in the case of Mark Cuban, how much we can accomplish in one generation when we truly believe in ourselves. And so for me, I had to decide, like, are my core values real, or am I going to just cave? Because I build Nopalera on the foundation of standing in our worth, of us being proud of exactly who we are. And that's why I built the brand to begin with. So for me to violate that would be like, what was the whole purpose of even building the brand in the first place? And so that's why I had to say no. And because I also just believed, as hard as it was in that moment, that there was more on the other side. Like, okay, yes, this offer is here right in front of me right now, but there's another offer on the other side of this. And so I have to say no to this so I can get to the next thing that's behind it. And then I did go and raise over $2 million, right?
Mhm,
For less equity than what the Sharks, for what they wanted.
mhm,
And so it proved to be true, right? There is more. And I proved that to myself. And I think once
mhm,
everyone knows who they are and they stand in their worth, you prove to yourself, like the confidence comes from the doing.
mhm,
The
mhm,
fear never goes away, by the way.
mhm,
So I still get nervous. I still get scared. I
mhm,
still get anxiety, but
mhm.
I've done it enough times that I know that I'm going to make it to the other side.
Mhm. Ugh, that is so beautiful and truly empowering, right? Because again, I always say this all the time. I never want to make stereotypes out of my community, right? I can only speak from like anecdotes and stories and like personal, relationships and friendships that I have here in my community. But turning down that amount of money can be terrifying, and even doubling that, right? It's like earlier going back to your speech, even if you doubled 300,000, that would be 600,000. But not only did you get way past 600,000, but with like way less equity than they were asking for. So I think that's really, really important here for our jefas, right? Please remember that one door is not the only door, right?
Right.
You can keep on going and keep on going until what feels right inside of you. That's the most important, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Daisy, would you mind asking Sandra the next question?
Yeah, I do want to know. How can, to all the jefas that are tuning in today, how can they learn to stand in their worth? What advice do you have, to give in this regard? Like, for example, you probably came in with the Sharks and you had your number, you had your worth, you had that. What did it take for you to, to get to that point and be so secure in it? What was that mindset like?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the things I said earlier, which is that you cannot view your value through the eyes of others who cannot see what you see. When you're building a business and you have a vision for that business, not everyone's going to see the vision. And that doesn't mean that they're right. It's your vision, right? It's your business, it's your entrepreneurial journey. And so um, you kind of have to get used to the fact that not everyone's going to get it, and so part of standing your worth is knowing who you are, right? Like, I know why I build Nopalera. I know what I want people to feel when they engage with the brand. That's not something anyone can take away from me. It's not actually not up for debate. It actually doesn't matter what other people think. It's not, you know what I mean? And so that's something that why it's so important to get to know yourself when you're building a business, and to have a very, very, very strong why, because you're building the business. If someone else has a different opinion about what your business should be, they're free to go and build their own business, but you are the visionary of your business, and knowing yourself and why you're doing it is something that no one can take away from you. And that's why it's important to reground, to spend time with yourself, to write it out, you know, because once you know who you are, literally no one can rob you of that. They can judge, they can say things, they can talk about you behind your back, they can call you crazy, they can turn you down, right? But they can't take that away. That's, that inner knowing that you have.
So just to reiterate, earlier on, you already knew, like walking into this business, you were like, I already know that this is going to be a multi-million dollar business.
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, I see this as a global brand. If you don't see that, that's your fault. I can't wait to come back to you in 10 years and prove you wrong.
I
You
love
know,
that. Yeah.
and you do have to, otherwise you'll just let other people's opinions wear you down. And so I love being underestimated because I'm like, I can't wait to prove you wrong. Ha ha ha. I'm going to save all these rejection letters. They're all going to go in my book one day. And I have a clip on national television of Mr. Wonderful saying, you're not worth $6 million. And I'm like, I can't wait to make like a video montage where I'm like, that's right, I'm worth 300 million. You're correct. It's not six, it's a lot more. So again, just when you know who you are, like no one can rob you of that. People are always going to have opinions, always.
Mhm.
That never goes away. Even when you're wildly successful, people are going to have opinions.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that just comes with the territory.
Yeah. I love that. And then we're gonna make sure to tag Mr. Wonderful there too.
This video was wonderful.
Just saying. Because you're well on your way, I will say. So with that, Sandra, here's a question for you, right? Personally, I love the journey, right? I think everyone has their story, and that story is so powerful. So let's talk about your story, right? Before you were Sandra Velasquez, founder of Nopalera,
Mhm.
let's get to know Sandra, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Who is Sandra? Where does she come from? What's her background? And how does Sandra find herself now starting Nopalera and then that journey that follows?
Yes. So I am from San Diego. So physically, that's where I'm actually from. But I was a musician my whole life. So I really thought that my purpose on earth was to write songs and bring people together through music. Music was a platform to celebrate our stories, our culture, our strength. And I used to be the lead singer of a band called Pistolera. So it rhymes with Nopalera, but Pistolera. And, had the opportunity to open for Los Lobos, Lila Downs, played the NPR Tiny Desk concert, played on big stages, toured internationally. And I truly thought that that was going to be what I was doing for the rest of my life. I had no inclination, no modeling of entrepreneurship in my family. Everyone in my family thinks starting a business is extremely risky and scary. Why would you ever do that if you could just go be a teacher or work for the county or. And so what happened was because I live in New York City, I always had like a day job for health insurance. And at the age of 43, I found myself unemployed for the first time, which I had never been unemployed ever. And it was this moment of like, wow, I'm not really qualified I can't really just like jump into corporate. I can, and music is great, but music is like this, right? It's like you're making an album for 2 years, you're in the studio, and then you emerge and then you make money. And so it's a roller coaster. So you can't rely on it. And so I realized in that moment, the only way I was going to be able to change my life was to build a new life for myself. It wasn't going to come from another job. It wasn't going to come out of thin air. Like I was going to have to build it. And I was standing there in my parents' front yard, and they have a nopalera, right? Like everyone does in Southern California, like a beat up one that they cut from all the time, all the pencas, and they eat them and new ones grow.
Mhm.
And it just like hit me like a light bulb. Like, why has no one built a brand with this as the star ingredient?
Mhm.
Everyone knows aloe vera. Aloe vera has had decades of marketing and everyone knows what it does. But the nopal is actually much more sustainable. It's much more versatile. It's and regenerative, right? Like my parents have the same, if I'm sure everyone here knows I'm preaching to the choir, but the nopal, you cut a penca and a new one grows back in like 3 weeks. It just keeps growing, right? Whereas like with aloe vera, that doesn't happen. You cut off a leaf of aloe vera and it stays as a stump. And so I was like, here's this wonder plant that I've known my whole life. And I'm sure many of you have had this experience where you grew up with something, so you took it for granted and you thought everyone knew that this was what it was. And so I was like, I'm going to build this like premium aspirational Latina brand and around this culturally symbolic plant. And I'm going to make it so beautiful that people that don't even know what nopal is or have nothing to do with our culture are going to want the product anyway. But for Latinos who get it, they're going to see themselves in it and they're going to feel incredibly proud. So it was very intentional. Like, this is what I'm building for who and why and how I want them to feel about it. And the only problem was I had no money. And, and number two, I had no beauty experience. And so I had to um, go to the internet, and I was like searching for ingredients, for courses on how to how to find manufacturing partners. And so I ended up enrolling in formulation school and studied for a year and made the products myself for the very first year. And um, now, thankfully, I'm no longer making the products. We have manufacturing partners all over the United States. But I launched Nopalera in the pandemic because, remember, back in 2020, when the pandemic first started, we all thought it was going to last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's not what happened.
And so I launched because I was like, yeah, whatever, we're pandemic, I'm launching. I've been building this for a year and a half. I'm going to launch this brand. And I did, and it was like a magnet, you
Mm,
know. And so kind of the rest is history, right? So fast forward now, it's been almost 4 years, right? I bootstrapped for the first 2 years, me and my Amex. I
mhm,
made the product. My boyfriend was my shipping manager. We literally did it from this apartment that I'm sitting at right now. And after 2 years of bootstrapping, I had to raise capital because no bank would give me a loan because we
mhm,
were so new. You know, when you
mhm,
go to a bank, they're like, oh, well, we need to see 5 years of historical data. I'm like, what? I've been around for a year. I don't have historical data.
yeah,
And I applied for every pitch competition, every grant, anything where I was like, where can I find money? You know?
yeah.
And thankfully, Shopify Capital offered me loans. That was the only loan I ever got. And but then that became not enough. I couldn't meet the demand. I couldn't hire people. I couldn't innovate. I was just trying to keep up, you know? And so that's why I ended up going and raising capital, because it felt like the only way I could grow. And now here we are in about 700 stores, you know, Nordstrom, Credo. We're launching in Kohl's this week. We have about 400 boutiques across the country, and we're a team of 5.
That is crazy. I know, I think I've seen stories where you were still making nopalera soaps. I think it was from your kitchen or your apartment and
Yeah.
sending it to Nordstrom, right?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like, they didn't know. You were just
I, Sandra, I can see how hard that was only because I was in the contract manufacturing space working with the formulators for, I can't say that brands, but I was on that side and I understand the kind of, because it's chemistry. I mean, after all, it is a lot of chemistry and it can take brands up to like 3 months just to find their winning formulation. So
Mhm.
I can imagine if you were doing this on your own, my goodness, I am extremely impressed. That is very difficult, but you figured it out. Like you had the grit
Yeah.
and the vision and oh my gosh, what was your were you doing this in your kitchen?
Yes. Yes. And then I outgrew that because I actually turned my bedroom into my ingredient storage space. I got rid of my bed. I bought a trifold mattress. And because I had ingredients, I had like buckets of coconut oil and you know, my floors were very slippery back then. And then eventually I had to move into like a little studio.
Mhm.
You know, it was technically a basement apartment, but they sold it to me as like a, you know, as a commercial space, but just to get out of my house. And so then, and luckily it was in my neighborhood. So then I had to hire like 2 assistants to help me pour the soap because I literally couldn't do it by myself, you know?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
How many soaps would you say you were filling, like, in or, like, you were creating by yourself at one point when, like, you started the journey? And what was the moment, right? Like, what was the moment, the number of jaboncitos or whatever that moment was that you knew, like, "I need that team," right? Like, "I need to start building."
Yes, the first thing I was like, I need to find a manufacturing partner. I need to get the production part out of my life because making your own product is a completely different business than running a business. It's
Right.
2 different businesses, right? And so it was hard because I was literally pouring soap and making lotion bars and everything. And then on the weekends, I would try to like do the social media. And I was like, this is too much. I can't be all the things.
Yeah.
And so the first thing was to find a manufacturing partner, which took me a year to find one. To take over my formulas.
Mhm.
And, you know, at that point I had hired who's my now marketing manager. She was working like as a freelancer, like by the hour. I was like,
Mhm.
I need help, like posting on Instagram, like, you know, can I send you the products and you can like film stuff and post it. I think she was working like 5 hours a week, you know, and then it was like 10 hours a week. And then it was, um, And so the team that I have today, a lot of them have been with me from the beginning, but they were like hourly or commission based,
Mhm,
because I couldn't afford to have real employees.
mhm,
Um, and and so yeah, I'm just fortunate that people, were here with me from the beginning.
mhm. Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's awesome. And one last thing I do want to say before moving on to the next question, you had mentioned something along the lines of, I believe it was only one organization that opened up or like gave you access to a loan, right? Was that Shopify or
Yeah, Shopify Capital. Mhm.
why was that? Like why like I'm genuinely curious. I'm like, is it really difficult for folks or Latinas to get access to capital or
It's just like what I've learned about money is that money begets money.
hmm.
This is like
Mhm. Mhm.
one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that people wanna give you money when you already have money,
Right.
which makes no sense because you're like, "The reason I need the money is because I don't have the money."
Right, right. Okay, got
But
it.
it's so like, anyone here that's gonna go take out a loan or raise capital or like, as soon as you have money in the bank, that's when you go and you get the bank loan or you get the line of credit because they need to know that you have money to pay back the loan.
Mhm. Right,
And
right.
so this is like the conundrum, right? This is why it's so hard for early stage businesses to kind of truly scale because
Mm,
they hit the ceiling, right? And no one will give them capital um,
mhm,
because they don't have any history, right? Because you don't have enough money to pay back the loan that you want to get. And
mhm,
so fortunately, we have these like fintech solutions. It's not just Shopify Capital. I think Amex has a version, QuickBooks has a version,
mhm,
PayPal has a version where they're giving you money based off of your sales. And
oh,
so that's why I was able to get Shopify Capital loans because I run my business, our e-commerce site is on Shopify, and they saw the sales and they're like, "Oh, you
mm,
have great sales. Like, here's $50,000." And I was like, "Oh my God, $50,000 is life-changing." And
yeah,
then $50,000 becomes not enough either
right.
because it just takes so much money to scale. There's so many costs of running a business. And I don't say this to scare people. I just say, just get used to numbers. Don't be scared of numbers, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Because that's also what keeps us small is we get scared because we've never done it before. We don't know anyone that's ever done it before. And there's a lot of new things to learn. I've had to learn so many skills building my business, right? Remember, I was a musician before, right? So I had to learn financial modeling. I had to learn, different types of bookkeeping. I had to learn, about payroll taxes, all sorts of things, insurance, right? It just legal,
yeah,
trademarks.
yeah.
There's a lot, right? But I didn't do it all at once. I learned as I needed, so I think I also don't want people to get overwhelmed, like they have to learn everything at once and they have to do everything at the same time. You don't,
Right.
right? What you do need to know is like, what is your business? Why does it need to exist? Why you and who is it for?
Mm,
Because the thing that you ultimately need when you have a business is customers.
right.
So and you need those customers to come back to you over and over. So if
Mm,
you don't have that, then there's a problem, right? So block out all the noise and focus on the
mm,
thing that you're making for your customers, right? Like you have customers as Suma, right?
mhm,
You know who it's for. You know why they need it, right?
yeah.
And you know that you need them to come back, right? And you need new people as well. And
Mhm.
so if you don't have repeat customers, you don't have a business especially when you're making products.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and we actually covered, most of this, right, in our boot camp as well, how to create a community, within your customers, right, and also making sure that your customers feel valued, right, that it's not just like a number, but rather someone who is also a part of your community and your
Mhm.
journey, and I will say, on a personal level, I believe Nopalera does a really good job at that and making people feel a part of the Nopalera community. I haven't been able to make it, but I have seen how even here in LA, you've had pop-ups, right?
Mhm.
With
Mhm.
Nopalera and you're inviting people. I think one time you even had like a piñata breaking, right? Kind of so things like that, right? Where it feels like, yeah, I'm not just a number, right? But like I'm a part of this beautiful community that represents me and my culture.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful. Pero let's keep on going because we are running out of time. So Daisy, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah. What is an essential lesson that the origin of Nopalera taught you as a jefa and a thought leader? And I also want to maybe even add on what is a transferable lesson, a transferable skill that you learned as a musician that helps you
Mm.
propel now that you're at, an entrepreneur?
Yes, I'm gonna answer your questions backwards because that last one is super valuable. what I learned from being a musician, which is being a working artist, right? Because you can be a dancer, an actor, right? A working artist is that I learned to strengthen my rejection muscle, which is so important. So, so, so important. Again, we talked about this earlier. If you take everything personally and you hear other people's opinions and you let it change how you think about yourself, then you're not going to make it. You have to know who you are, and no one can take that away from you. You know, there's always going to be opinions. People are always going to say no. I get told I've been rejected hundreds of times, right? And the reason I'm here is because I kept going. That's the thing, right? Not because I'm smarter, because I'm better, because I did something, there's a trick. No, it's because I kept going. And so rejection strengthen, you need resilience when you're building a business, when you're an entrepreneur. So that's the answer to that. That's what music gave me. It gave me the gift of having a very strong, resilient, rejection muscle. And also, I would say, being in front of people. I've been on stage my whole life. And so going into Shark Tank, I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. You know what I mean? And so I'm very grateful for that too, because not everyone wants to be public facing. Not everyone wants to be on the microphone at the front of the stage. And that's fine. You don't have to be just because you're a business owner. There are many founders or many brands that we all enjoy that you don't know, you never hear from the founder, so, be yourself. Not everyone has to be a public speaker. um, but I would say, like, in terms of the main question that you asked, Daisy, is the biggest lesson is committing to my own evolution. Because, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is the hardest thing is to change the way you think. And one of the first things I did when I started Nopalera was I joined a mastermind. So in the same way that you have Jefas in this boot camp, right, who are committing to their own evolution, because no one is going to give it to you. No one's going to come and save us. You have to commit to your own growth, right? And so changing the way I think. I used to think that $3,000 was like an exorbitant amount of money. I was like, oh God, wow, if I could just make $3,000 a month, like, oh my God, like I felt even bad, like asking for $3,000, right? Now I'm like, please, $3 million, And so this is back to, like, take your ceiling and make it your new floor. And that has to do with changing the way you think about yourself, about what is possible, about what you're capable of, about what you're worth, right? And it's a process. It's not like, oh, you change the way you think today and then tomorrow you're all good, right? This is a constant process that I still work on. But that's what I mean by committing to your own evolution. In the same way that you commit to, you're going to exercise every day or you're going to eat healthy every day. It's like that. It's a commitment to yourself.
Sorry, give me 1 second. I have something in the background.
Oh, no, I love that, Sandra. And you know what? Actually, that is connected to the next question, right? So this one is all about navigating business spaces unapologetically as a Latina. And the question is, what helps you navigate the business world as boldly and apologetically as you do? Again, we started the plática right before we went live, and I'm like, I love your earrings, like everything, right? And that's one thing I've learned in life too, like even visually, right? Like we can be political with how we show up, right? Or we can make a statement with that. So yeah, how do you navigate the business world as you?
Well, I mean, I'm in the beauty category, so I think it depends what kind of vertical you're in. But the worst thing that you can be is boring. And so being yourself, be memorable, right? So be yourself. And again, do not let the fear of judgment, like, stop you, because then you will never grow. You'll never stand out, right? And then you might not reach your full potential, right? For me, what I want the most for myself and for everyone here, is for all of us to reach our full potential. And when you think about that, it's really exciting. When you think about what you can accomplish, Angelica, what you can accomplish, Daisy, to reach your full potential. And so that means, again, knowing yourself, keep going, learning, evolving, right? Say goodbye to the 2023 version of yourself, like really start to envision who you want to be and start to become that person. now, right? You change first and then everything changes. It's not the other way around.
Mhm.
It's not like you get the loan, you raise the money, and now you can no, it's like you change and then everything else comes,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. And with that, that change will enable you to take action, right? And show up imperfectly, make those mistakes, right? But because you know that you're changing inside, I would argue that's part of what's driving the change
Yes.
around you, right? It's like that
Oh,
change
yes.
within you is now
Yes.
telling you you can show up imperfectly o como quieras, but you
Mhm.
can keep growing, right?
Yeah,
I
and I
wonder.
think the only thing I would add to that is that you just have to remember that all of us are just energetic beings, and energy is contagious. Courage is
Mm,
contagious.
love that.
And so when you are showing up as
Mm,
boldly, as courageously as yourself, it will be you will be like a magnet. People will want to come and be near you, right? In the same way, like I have experiences from on the other side, right? Where people see me as like someone who's successful or someone who's bold or courageous. So they want to come and be near me, right? I experience this from like a outer body experience type of way, right? But it's just as, and I feel that way about other people, right?
mhm,
Michelle Obama, right? Like people who are bold, who
yeah.
say things, who are eloquent, who are intelligent.
Mm,
Um, you're attracted to them because
mm,
of that, right?
mhm,
And so that energy, you being bold and being boldly yourself
mhm,
and courageous wherever you go,
mhm.
is also like you changing the energy in the room.
Yep, yep.
That has to be like a law of the universe, right? Because you had mentioned it in so many ways already and throughout this conversation when it was like the money attracting the money, right? Like the loan having this, the sales attracting that, and now like you being like within your
Mhm.
that, and then it attracts more. It's like, wow, this has to be a recurring law by far from just the
Yeah.
world.
See,
Yes. Yes.
and I feel like I've heard it often from, like, even, like, other successful Latina entrepreneurs, right? I follow many other mujeres también, and, like, I hear their podcasts and their stories and their journeys, and all of them start with that, right? They always start their story is that of, like, believing in oneself and believing that you can step away from places that no longer fit you, right? And,
Mhm.
like, always
Mhm.
knowing that there will be something, right? There again,
Mhm.
there's something at the other end of whatever you're leaving.
Yes, and I just wanna add to that is, like, and this is something I still, again, work on because we're all works in progress, is to dismiss yourself from other people's energy.
Yeah.
Like, just
Right.
because they are in a certain energetic
Mhm.
field does not mean you have to participate and get sucked in, you know? If someone is at, like, a low frequency, you don't have to jump in to
Right,
their low frequency,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot about, protecting your energy.
I
Ooh,
love that.
that takes us to this question. I'm like, okay, so whenever you're trying to detach from that and that ickiness, right? It's like that low vibration. What are little tips, practical tips you could give our jefas right now
Mhm.
to get to that point? And even because one of those icky, energetic things is imposter syndrome, right? Other people not believing in you, then you start
Mhm.
tagging like, I don't believe in myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's something that you would say back or you would do as a
Mhm.
practical advice?
Yeah, so this is something, again, I'm actively working on, right? Is, becoming the observer. So you as things are happening or as people are reacting or as people are saying things like instead of having an emotional reaction, just like observe. Like, okay, wow, that was a totally racist comment that that person just said. Let me just observe that. Or like that person just totally disrespected me. Let me just observe that. That's interesting, right? But it's like you don't allow it to permeate you. You observe because everyone ultimately is just walking around projecting their own insecurities, their own anger, their own feeling of lack, their own like they couldn't do it, so why could you? Whatever. And so letting people, this is hard, right? Letting people be who they are and not trying to convince them and change them and like hit them over the head with like, your perspective, like, okay, that person thinks that. Cool, moving on. And so again, imposter syndrome is like you believing the lies of other people. It doesn't come from within. It's like you're letting other people's opinions and thoughts and projections, like you're internalizing them, because the thing with it's like if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? So I I don't really have imposter syndrome so much. And I think because I'm just so hard-headed. Like, I'm like and so I don't even have, like, the space, I'm just like I was literally born like this, my poor parents, right? Like, since I was, like, a teenager, I'm like, "I'm doing
Uh-huh. Yeah,
it."
yeah. That's funny.
You know? So, yes, you do have to believe in yourself more. You have to believe in yourself first, right? And I think sometimes we look for outside validation. Are there other things in business where you wanna, like, validate an idea, like, test the market? Yes, 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 sure, of course. But in terms of your ability to create, and to also learn and pivot and grow, like, that as I say, like, fail fast, right? It didn't work, cool. Let's, like, make it better.
Mhm.
You're not like, "Oh, let's quit," you
Mhm.
know? And so everyone that is successful that everyone looks up to has had multiple failures behind
Mhm.
them.
Mhm. Right.
Multiple failures. Every actor has been rejected
Mhm.
many, many times,
Mhm.
before they got the role that you know them for. And so just know that that's part of the process. It's not something for you to dwell on or for you to be like, well, maybe they're right. You just keep committing to your own evolution. You keep going. You
Mhm.
keep learning and growing.
I love that, Sandra, but I have a question naturally because, I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, but then there's the other part of me that understands systems, right? And that
Mhm.
understands that there's obstacles, even going back to, the loan, right? Where only
Mhm.
one company offered you like a
Yeah.
loan. So I guess
Mhm.
my question is, how do we help HIFAs navigate systems where like they might even contribute to their imposter syndrome because of those close obstacles. Like, how do you do that as a jefa within the corporate space, which I imagine, especially for Latinas, it's very
Mhm.
restricted,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah, I look at a lot of this matrix as like a game of chess and look at it like a matrix. And so if the door is locked, go to the back and climb through the window. If that's locked, like throw a rock and, find the way in. Like you don't even allow yourself to stop and be like, "Oh,
Mm,
well, I guess the world's against me."
mm,
Absolutely not. There's just too many people. There's
mhm,
too many examples of people that have accomplished things when they were no resources at all, that
right,
they have overcome huge
right.
things. And I've had this conversation before with other people, and sometimes people say, "Oh, well, not everyone can be like Nelson Mandela." It's like, why not? Have you tried? Like,
Or
have you
like you
tried?
said.
You know? And so don't make excuses, like,
Mhm,
for don't make excuses about why you can't, because you will always find whatever you're looking for. And if you're
mhm.
looking for reasons why you can't, you will find them.
Oh,
Eh,
right.
And so don't dwell on the lack of resources, on the systems, on how because that is just you have a certain amount of, like, battery in your brain, and if you use it all
Mm,
on just, like, the lack and what is not there, you are literally using up, your battery on focusing on what you can do
mhm,
and
mhm.
how to get into the house and how to, like, find the
Right,
rock through the window, like, climbing through the back, do whatever, right? And I put myself into new rooms. I knew nobody in the beauty industry 3
right,
years ago, like, not one single person,
right,
and now I know everyone,
right,
and that's because I climbed the castle wall. Like, I found the way in, like, I got
right,
in, whatever I had to do, I put myself into new rooms, and I
right.
played the game of chess, and I got to know people, you
Mm,
know? And because, again, for me, I'm doing it because everything is about servicing the mission of what I'm building. So I'm like, "I don't care what it takes."
yeah, right,
I don't care how hard it is, like, I'm
right,
gonna do it.
right.
And so if you're only trying to build a business because it's fun or you just wanna do it a little bit, then maybe you're not trying to build a business, you're trying to do something else, you know? But if you have a very, very, very strong mission, you will do whatever it takes, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm,
So,
mm.
like, yes, I could still talk about the lack of resources and how hard it is and, but look what I've done even, with that, you
Right,
know?
right. Well, because at the end of the day, the systems are what they are, right? It's like no matter what, ahí van a estar, and that's how they function. But like I think that's key here, right? It's like even within these systems, you can still like navigate them in your own way or even a better way, right? Or like
Mhm.
a new way. And I think that's super important. I had never thought about it that way. So even this is a brand new perspective, I think that you're bringing to me, right? As a listener and like a host here, I'm like, that's beautiful to see it in that way, right?
I also think for me, it's again, like, it's this fire of like, I want to win because more of us need to win because it's gonna be us that
Yeah,
goes and helps other people. It's
yeah,
not going to be because we change people's minds or because DE&I is back or because no, it's like we need to be at the banks. We need to be the lenders. We need to be the investors. And
yeah,
like, because here's the reality. And again, whether you like it or not, people help people that they understand.
absolutely. Right. Right.
People invest in people that look like them.
Right.
Hello, all of like Silicon Valley, you
Right.
know? And
Right.
so the first people that wrote me checks were guess who? Other Latinas.
Right.
Are we
Yeah.
surprised? You know what I mean? And so this is why it's like grab the bag, ladies. Grab
Mhm,
the bag, like go for it. Get it.
mhm.
Break
Right.
the window, break the rules, climb the
Mhm,
castle wall, do whatever you need
mhm,
to do because it's
mhm.
not just about you.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
it's not just about you, like,
Right.
it's not just I'm not building Nopalera for me,
Mhm.
like, yes, hopefully I get to benefit too, right? But also because I know how important it is that more of us succeed
Yep.
because it's going to be I wanna be able to write the checks to the next generation so that they don't have to deal with, like, only one person giving them a loan,
Right.
you
Right,
know?
right. So even that, right, it kind of even becomes the topic of like us building these new worlds and like building
Yes.
these new systems for newer generations of Latinos. And
Yes.
data shows too that we're growing, right? I believe it's by 2050, Latinos will be the largest demographic in the country. So it's coming, right?
Well,
It's coming.
it's too bad for the racists, like, it's happening whether you like it or not, you know? And, um, yeah, and I think just the thing is, like, don't wait for someone to give it to you. Like we have to go and just get it. You
Mm.
know, don't wait for someone to validate you or to invite you. Like go crash the party.
Mm, right. Y sin pena, right? O
Yes.
con pena y todo, con miedo y todo, but again, show up imperfectly.
Mhm.
We've talked about this before, Daisy and I, right? Where it's like, yeah, I've been in places too where it's like my voice is shaking, my knees are shaking, but like you show up, right? It's like just show up.
The
Mhm.
confidence comes from the doing. You don't get the confidence first and then you go and you be in the world. You go
Right.
and you be in the world, you survive, and it gives you confidence. And then you go and you do it again.
Right. Well, oh my goodness, this plática has been so amazing. Honestly, we can go on and on and on, pero son las 4:58 on my side of the world, and I do want to honor your time and our jefa. So, Daisy, I'll let you ask Sandra our last question before we wrap up this beautiful plática.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sandra. Your energy is very contagious, and I love it. And we can all like feel it in the screens. We can all feel it on this live. And we want to wrap up. What are the maybe 5 key power moves that you would give to all emerging jefas tuning in today after this
Mhm.
call?
Yes. I mean, some of them, I'm just going to recap things that we've already said, but just to like give you the bullet point list, I think number one, again, like committing to your own evolution. The fact that you guys were even in this boot camp, you're already like moving in that direction, right? Commit to your own evolution. Number two, again, change the way you think, right? Take your ceiling and make it the new floor. Number three, create a success squad. And these should be people that, again, there's no jealousy, it's like when you're winning, it feels like they're winning, right? And it could be 2 people, it could be 3 people. I have a group, we're 4 people in my group, right? So creating a success squad, right? And then, for me, I think like putting yourself, and maybe this also, again, hopefully resonates with the type of businesses that everyone has, is like put yourself into new rooms. Put yourself into new rooms. Um, or people don't worry about what people think, like is your family going to judge you? Maybe, who cares? you know so put yourself into new rooms. And then number four, like succeed wildly, not just a little bit but wildly, because again, it's not just about us. Like we are writing the new world together. We're a part of something much bigger. Like we are collectively changing the tide. The fact that even Suma exists, the fact that this boot camp exists, this did not exist 10 years ago, right? And so normalizing talking about money, right, is something that's a whole other TED talk right there, right? But I think
That's another graduation.
another great, but I think this thing of like we are the generation that's going to break the cycle, right? And so, um, yes, will you be judged? Possibly. Will people be mad at you? Possibly. But again, it's much, much bigger than us, So that's it.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Wow, I'm really inspired. Everybody is clapping right now. Thank you so much for the advice. Your presence was amazing. So
Yep. Yeah, no, ditto to everything that Daisy said. Once again, Team Suma, myself, we want to give you a huge, huge thank you, Sandra, for joining us, for being our Jefa keynote speaker. I'm ready to go journal right now and take notes on everything that we talked about because it's truly inspiring and amazing, but also just so authentic, right? Like when I hear you talk, I can feel it and I can see it and I can sense it. And I think that's super important. I truly do. So thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Team Suma, everyone who's been behind the entire bootcamp that our jefas didn't necessarily get to see. Yeah, just again, throwing everyone our flowers today. Muchas gracias. And with that said, congratulations, jefas, class of 2024. Remember, even though the guided version of the bootcamp has ended today, you still have access to the entire course. If you haven't finished, you can still finish it and get your ASU certificate. Also, starting October 2nd, the Spanish Bootcamp will be launching, and that will be going from October 2nd through November 6th. So, other than that, we are done here. So, gracias, everyone. Gracias, Daisy. Gracias, Sandra.
everyone.
Gracias, jefas. We wish you all